So PMs are sociopaths.
You said it, not me. But like,
Are you going to say it?
No, I'm not going to say that.
What is going on, certified homies? Welcome to another episode of From A to B. You have Shiva, and I'm joined by Matt and Moshe, who are the product guys. They're the product for product podcast guys. There's a lot of P's in there. Do you guys want to know what your nickname is for this episode?
Please.
You guys are Eminem.
Eminem. I like that. Eminem's good.
Yeah.
That's good. I like him. I like Eminem's too. That's even better.
So Matt, you're a product owner for growth at Form Assembly, and Moshe, you're a product director at Root Quotient, and also a product coach for startups. This is a perfect time to talk about what the fuck is product management and how the hell is that any different than CRO? Because I've had a lot of these conversations that I think more and more the skill set of what CRO and the mindset of what CRO should be embodying should just be the product manager, and that should be their perspective. I apologize if I say product owner. Can we do a quick aside for 5 seconds? I'm going to say product owner a lot, and that's, you guys are just going to have to deal with it. But you guys hate product owner. Why? Why do you guys hate this word? It's just words.
I don't hate it.
I'm the one. I'm the crumpet here. I'll tell you why. Product owner as a job title really came from Scrum. So Scrum has 3 roles on a team. It has team member, it has product owner, and it has a Scrum master. Now the team members are everyone else. So it's like the developers, the QAs, the DevOps, the designers. Now imagine a developer went to school, learned like for 4 years software development, honed their craft and whatever, and then they join a team and they call him, you are a team member. Your role job is a team member now. So that's the little story behind it, because really product owner came from Scrum. It didn't come from product management. And then the second thing is that once you start dividing product managers from product owners, you start having issues with the product. It really needs to be the same person that are doing what these days product managers and product owners are doing. As 2 jobs, it should be a job of 1 person, not the job of 2 people.
So you wouldn't have an issue with if at a company there was only product owners and that product manager position never existed because they're just, the title is
depends what they
owner.
do. No, it depends what they do. When a product owner is only on the team and they don't work with users, they don't work with stakeholders, they only do the tactics, and that's how many companies are doing that. They divide it between strategy and tactics. So the product manager will do the strategy. They might work with all the stakeholders. They might work with the users. And then they tell the product owners, this is what you have to do. And the product owner becomes just a backlog manager. And they just work with the team.
So Matt, you don't care. And to be honest, it's funny because there is a similar vein of like, am I CRO or experimentation? What the fuck is CRO? In my head, I say my role job title is Schmorgenporgen because it's defined as me. Yeah. And I define it, yeah. And I am whatever the fuck I want to call myself, and I do whatever the fuck I want to do.
Yeah.
So that's the best way to do it. Personally, I don't care because to me, the title is irrelevant if the responsibilities roll up to it. Do you agree with that, Matt? Like the title doesn't matter as much, or do you have a different perspective?
I don't think the title matters quite as much because at the end of the day, you're all trying to deliver a product or a feature. I mean, I personally work with product managers today, and I'm a product manager. We have a great relationship. We're 2 halves of a brain. So it allows me to focus on more strategic level stuff while the product owner works on the more tactical, lower level stuff to deliver the feature and then to grow adoption for it. So I actually benefit from it, but I've been in roles in the past where I've done both things. And it can be extremely overwhelming as a product manager if you're working on a bunch of different things to work on strategic level stuff and then zoom all the way into the myopic tactical level. And I've also been a product owner on an internal feature team. I was a product manager, but I wasn't really called that. I was like an owner analyst, and I worked on backlog and worked with the Scrum team. So I've kind of had all kinds of different flavors. So I think there's pros and cons, and I don't think titles do justice to all the stuff people are doing.
So this is great. I love this because I do think there is something to titles that matters less and less. Just to be clear, Moshe, you've been voted out. We have a quorum here. Matt and I agree, and you're wrong. So you now have to legally change your stance. Also, I'm sorry, Matt, when you were saying like you and your other person were two halves of a brain, I'm like, so you have half a brain?
There we go. No, we're a mega brain. We're a mega brain. So the two, I didn't quantify how big the brain was.
True. All right, fair enough. Fair enough.
Yes.
So I do think this is a really great segue into basically the concept that I've been chewing on a lot is like CROs are effectively just product owners or product managers, whatever this thing is. Now we can agree or disagree on, maybe the titles that roll up to that. And I'd love to go into that a little bit more. But Moshe, let's start with you. How do you approach your job versus maybe what a CRO or experimentation person could do? How do you delineate this is mine versus that's what CRO does?
I follow Marty Kagan quite, I don't know if religiously is the right word, because I also want to be critical about it and see how it works for me and stuff like that. But I really believe in the way that he puts it about what are the roles of the team triad. So there are 4 risks we're trying to reduce when we build the product: the value, the feasibility, the usability, and the viability. And the product manager is owning the value and viability. So what value we're creating to the users, and then how is it valuable to the organization? And then the feasibility is the engineers, and the usability are the designers. Now, I might want to ask you, how do you define CRO, and where do you put that, the responsibility of the CRO with these 4 risks? Because to me, CRO is really a position that I'm a bit fuzzy about, because I actually never work with a CRO. Whenever I see CRO, I think, okay, this is a chief revenue officer. So why do I need a chief revenue officer on my team to do experimentation, right? So to me, I'm like, okay, so maybe first explain the CRO, and then which risks you are owning or trying to help the team with.
So I will answer that. But first, Matt, I'm going to pose the same question for you. How do you, and if you're like, I don't even know what it is, so I don't know how to work with it, that's a fine answer too. But I think you said you have a CRO on your team, or you've worked with CROs before, right?
No, I'm not. I'm not.
Oh, I'm
not.
lying. Okay, cool.
Yeah,
great.
So I have not worked with CROs. And so I actually asked Anthropic AI about CRO. And first of all, I thought it was a chief revenue officer. I had to clarify, it's not chief revenue officer Anthropic chatbot. But I started looking into it, and it brought up things like go-to-market, stuff like that, like success metrics. And then I started reading through it, and I'm like, this is a lot of what I already do as a product manager. Maybe having not worked with a CRO before, maybe I'm kind of in the same boat as Moshe is, wanting to understand it.
So I think that's a perspective that is shared across many product owners. And that's honestly why I wanted to have you guys on, because my podcast talks more to CROs than it does to product owners. It's not the product for product podcast. This is the From A to B podcast. So my audience has folks who are working with people like you, where you're not opposed to testing. Y'all are data driven. You guys make
absolutely.
decisions. You're optimizing for user experiences at the same time. But you might just not know exactly what we do, who we are, how we can contribute and help. So let me start with this. I think there's a breakout of mindset versus tactics. Yeah. I think you guys are CROs in mind. What that means is data driven. You guys want to validate the decisions that you make. You guys aren't just like, I have an MBA, therefore I know everything, and we're just going to blindly follow all the shit that I say. You guys aren't that. So that's the mindset. Although, to be fair, there are product owners who are like that, and I do not like them. But you guys are not that. So there are other product owners in the space who are, more hippo thinking, highest paid person's opinion, or it's my product, it's my baby, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, it's mine, do it my way. So the mindset piece is persistent optimization, learning, testing, validation, research. These are all buzzwords under the CRO mindset. Now, where I think CROs, like the role or the title, or whatever the fuck we want to call ourselves, where we help contribute to that is offloading some of the actual tactics and helping inform on strategy. And I think it depends. I'll make the case later that ultimately I think the CRO role might need to start being sunset, and it should just be product owners with the skill set and the mindset. But in the world that we live in, it's broken out where I am a product owner of CRO, conversion rate optimization, whatever. And I have tactics. I will run tests. I'll go look at the analytics. I'm like part analyst, part testing evangelist, part research, part qualitative, quantitative. Like I kind of do a bunch of different things. And I help report into like a director position of web strategy, which I would say is kind of equivalent to maybe some of the roles and titles you guys are talking about. So do you guys see a world where product owners, and I'll kick this off to you first, Moshe. Do you see a world where some of the tasks that you have that are more experimentation focused, research focused, data focused, that's not your job? You've offloaded that to a CRO who helps you achieve those goals, and you collaborate with that person to define strategy.
The mindset is definitely there. And we do try to do as much as we can to do discovery, to use different tools to understand, first define hypotheses and then understand, how people react to that and stuff like that. So we usually put all of that under the value bucket. So that value bucket is like, we have a lot of risks when we're building products and we don't know if they are going to be valuable for the users. We are humble enough to know that we don't know anything, and therefore we need to do those tests. But traditionally, the reason I never worked with a CRO is because I also didn't work with designers, and I didn't work with other people that could help me do these things. And I had to do all of it on my own if I had that mindset. The know how to, that was hard. That was the things that I had to kind of like see, okay, so how do I do these things? How do I do these tests? Et cetera, et cetera. I was assigned once to implement A/B testing, and I had no idea what A/B testing is. As a product manager, I had no idea what A/B testing was, but I had to go and learn it. And I looked at the different products at the time, and I chose a specific product, and then I learned how to use it, and I learned as I was going. So I would say that probably if I had a CRO, or the way that you define it, I would work with them as someone that really helped me do that, either offload it to them or we work together on saving time, first of all, for me, that I don't have to learn it all, and then help me define the right way to test it and how do I analyze the data and all of that, because I had to learn all of it on my own. That's why we also, on our podcast, on Product for Product, we invited you, and we invited other people like you, Tracy, and other people that are CROs and they know how to use these systems to talk about A/B testing, because we saw this is like the most people that are really familiar and have this deep understanding of A/B testing are CROs. But I think in each one of those episodes, we were saying to our audience, usually we don't have these people in our organization, so we have to do it on our own. So you should really learn that. Maybe it's the size of the organization also. So some organizations will have the ability to, yes, let's have this entire help system to the product managers to support them with all of those things.
I was going to ask you this kind of a similar question on that vein, Matt. We were talking about offloading tasks, and I do wonder how much product ownership feels comfortable offloading tasks, because I have a biased perspective on some product managers who I've worked with and haven't been great. They haven't wanted to test. They haven't felt comfortable testing. They don't like it. It felt like a challenge to their strategy, which it shouldn't be the case, right? Like, I'm here to help you validate and make good decisions, because at the end of the day, product owners, you have KPIs you need to hit, and I'm here to help you support and hit those KPIs and not miss those targets. So in theory, it should be that, like Creed, you welcome us with arms wide open. Sorry, that was terrible.
100%.
But Matt, is there maybe a fear? Like, ignore resourcing. I think that's a different conversation. That it's a challenging conversation to have. Like, just have more people, just have more money, just like that.
Yeah, you can throw people and money at problems, and it doesn't solve anything.
That's true. But if you don't even have money to throw at the problem, then
Sure.
What do you do? But specifically, I want to bug your brain about this, Matt. Offloading tasks with product owners. Is there a fear of offloading the tasks? Like, perhaps if I offload this task of strategy or research or something, it's not going to be done the way I want it to, or maybe is there some semblance? Because product managers have to control a lot. They're responsible for a lot, so they have to try and control a lot. Is there something in offloading tasks equals it won't be done the way I wanted to do it, therefore I don't want to offload it and it's mine? Is there something to that?
One word to describe that is trust. You have to trust the people around you. If you do not trust them, then you get very self-conscious and you kind of hoard things. I trust my product owner. I trust my product designer. I trust my team. And so I know if I need help, If I need them to do something that might not be like product design, like I'm looking at CRO stuff, the design team does some of this stuff, the UX experience journey stuff. So they do their thing. They do it well. And I trust them to do it. I can focus on strategy stuff. I think it just comes down to that. If you don't trust the people around you, then you become probably selfish and more like, hey, I need to do this. I need to hoard all this stuff because at the end of the day, it's my job and I got to succeed at it. But you're not going to succeed in the long run like that.
So that's interesting. That is a soft skill that defines a good product manager from a bad one is trust in your team, trust in the people that you work with, that you don't have to do everything. You're not responsible for everything. Well, I guess you're responsible for a lot, but you should trust the team members that you work with.
100%. Honestly, a lot of what product management is, like if you ask somebody to define it, it's so many different things. I mean, there's so many different adjectives to describe a product manager. And so much of that is soft skills. I mean, you have to negotiate, you have to do all kinds of stuff, risk management. I mean, there's just so much that you have to do in your day-to-day job that if you don't have the soft skills and you're not adaptable to things, you're not going to thrive in the role. So I think trust is just one of many things that you have to be as a PM.
You know, there is a saying, someone coined this, that the product manager is the CEO of the product. These days, we don't really believe in that anymore because we know there is a lot of things that we don't own or we cannot make decisions about. But what you said about the trust is actually very similar to that, because a CEO that cannot trust their team is not really a good CEO if they're trying to control everything. So it's in the same way, really. Like, this is something you can learn from good CEOs and from bad CEOs.
Yeah, it screams control to me. Like anytime somebody says CEO of a product, that's like, I control this thing. And
but we don't.
Like at the end of the day,
we know
like,
that we don't. We know that we don't.
Trying to get the same direction. We're all rowing in the same direction. So I don't like to use it.
You know, these days you have product operations, product ops, and a CRO could go under a product op as a service to all the other product managers. So usually the way it works is whatever type of services that product managers need, either it is in design, in testing, in discovery, product ops can support that. So maybe that's the right distinguish between where is a CRO and where is a product manager.
It's almost like the CRO is part of the product team.
It is part of the product team for sure.
Yeah.
Yes. Sometimes you will have a CRO in the team as a team member with everyone else. It could be alongside the UX person. All the tests that I've done in the past, I always had the UX UI people helping me with, or I did it with them. So maybe that's where that Venn diagram falls.
It's not. So I wish there was just have CROs sit in this org or sit in this function or do this thing. People crave rules, and this is never going to be the case because everything is different all the time for every company and every personality. There's different ways of approaching it. Like maybe you have a central, I'll say this for like more mature organizations, but you might have a single CRO team of like 7 people that sits and they evangelize experimentation, they work on the product, they centralize the insights, the repository, whatever, they run the testing, they establish guardrails. And then you have a CRO in marketing, a CRO in engineering, CRO in UX, CRO in product. And they have these like individual stakeholders who then report into the larger brain trust of the CRO. And that's how it works. We're talking about very mature organizations that have more than one CRO. And I think the reality is if you have a CRO at your team, you're probably more mature than maybe 90% of the other companies. Because in many cases, like Moshe, you just described, like you are the ones doing this.
Yeah.
And Moshe brought up a point around, I don't know how to do A/B testing. And I think that's not, it's fair. Like, I don't know how to skateboard. That doesn't mean I'm a terrible person, right? It's fine. It's okay if you don't know how to do it. But I think that's a very real challenge in the product ownership space, or I guess just in digital marketing as a whole. So a lot of people don't know how to do it. It seems like it's easy. Just have 2 variations, split it down the middle. If one goes up, do the thing. But it can be more complicated. There's more nuance than that. Do you think that's a problem, that people don't feel confident in how to run an A/B test, what to A/B test, not knowing the value of A/B testing, that they then perhaps say, okay, well then I just don't want to like do the A/B test then? I
think it comes down to probably, and you could probably help with this in your area. So are you in B2C or are you in B2B? So in a B2B, I've worked in B2B. I know Moshe has as well. In B2B, you may not even have the opportunity to do A/B test. So you may be in an environment where you're not going to do that with a customer that's on your app. So Whereas a B2C, like, yeah, you could do that all day long. So I'm wondering if that's like a demarcation in itself. Like you just have CROs, you might see more CROs in roles on product teams when you're B2C versus a B2B role. So I don't know if from your experience or in your conversations, I wonder if that's might be the case.
It might be. It goes back to definitions. And I think, like, what does product owner versus product manager mean? Like, your definition probably differs than anyone else's definition, and that's fine. I don't think many of us agree on definitions, but CRO is the same way. What you're kind of alluding to is like, oh, CROs only A/B testing, so maybe it's not a role in smaller B2B companies. We don't have a ton. We get a decent amount of traffic, but it's not a lot. It's not booking, or it's not the same as a B2C site. But we have enough traffic that we could not only A/B test, albeit big changes in order to detect something, but we could also do research. And I think that research, the qualitative piece, the analyst piece, with a mindset towards testing and validation pre-post, that is part of the CRO skill set, I guess, role.
That could be a real big benefit to product managers. And I'm wondering if like maybe the CRO role is shrinking or being absorbed somewhere. So I'm wondering if like with the contraction of tech, that we've kind of seen over the past couple of years, if that role has maybe contracted maybe into product manager roles. I look at analytics. We're always looking to see like adoption metrics and that kind of stuff and tracking that information. But it always comes down to quantifiable time. Like how much time do you actually have to do things? If you have a CRO on your team, you might be able to get more granular. And it might be like, hey, you have a dedicated role that handles this. And so it could be a real strong benefit to product teams. And I don't know if all product teams either have the capacity to bring somebody on to do this work, or they just say, oh, let the product manager handle this. Like, let's just give him something else.
It's a very interesting conversation because there are so many external factors that are, I think, tangibly affecting product as an industry, like product ownership, product management, and CRO. Because one of the big ones is just like recession, tech layoffs. Yeah. People are expecting more with less.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
That's where I think the CRO role is starting to slowly fade away or not be viewed as important. It's seemingly like that's not important, which is all the more reason why CROs have to align themselves more with product ownership and product management as a role, because that is an important role. Businesses recognize the importance. Not every business recognizes the importance of experimentation, CRO, whatever the fuck smorgasbord role we have. So that's where I'm curious what you guys think about like CROs, traditional CROs, like people like myself. We should be aligning ourselves more with the strategies and the responsibilities that product ownership has. One, because I think that actually connects better. Like if I know the mindset of a product owner like yourself, Matt, Moshe, if I understand where you guys are coming from and you guys kind of understand where I'm coming from, we could connect way better and have a much better productive conversation. Versus if I'm like, hey, here's an A/B test, and then the product owner's like, fuck you, MBA. Like, then it's never going to be productive. So, Moshe, I'm curious, like, what are your thoughts on experimentation CROs, traditional people, gaining more product management responsibilities, and product managers gaining more CRO knowledge?
Yeah, for sure. So I think where it all falls under the value risk, there is still that viability to the organization that product managers needs to take care of and worry about. Right. First of all, if there is a way to offload that work for the value, that's for sure. To get the CROs closer to the product management, it's really about starting from the beginning. And the beginning is really what is the vision of our organization? What is the strategy of our organization? And based on that, what's the vision of the product? And then what's the strategy of the product? So what are we even trying to do over here? What are some of those hypotheses? So don't just give me, here is an A/B testing and here are the results of that. Now do something with that. But rather, let's hypothesize together what are the things we're trying to do? What are the changes we're trying to do? So where is that direction we're trying to go to? And based on that direction, we can together, come up with how do we test that? The way that you're an expert in how to test things and how to understand the results of the tests, that's a priceless commodity and ability that product managers that want to do that needs to be able to do. And then for CRO, if you want to move more towards product management, it's really to understand what is our job to be done. And our job to be done is to create value to users while making it viable for the organization. So even if the A/B test will show me something very specific about the users, if you're giving me ideas that are too expensive for me to implement or not align with our vision or with the strategy, then it might be just, waste of your time to do that. I might decide to scrap that. Or we might have to go back and change the vision and the strategy. So there is always those decisions to make as we go based on the data that we're collecting and what we will learn on the go.
So based on that, how can CROs actually work with the product managers? Because I do think it's not always as easy as we'll work together with a product manager. Mm-hmm. Right. It's probably something beyond that. And I know, like, Moshe, we're talking about like jobs to be done, understand what are the roles, like what are they interested in looking at. I've talked to some designer friends on this podcast before, and they basically indicated like, come to them with maybe problem statements or research and stuff. And it's like, hey, here's a thing I've done. Here's some research. Here's some insights. Let's maybe try and hypothesize on, backed in this research, what do we do about it? So you're coming to the table with like a bunch of ingredients, and then you're looking at the chef and being like, hey, what do we want to do with this? On the counterpoint, I've talked to demand generation managers, and they've also said it would make my life a lot easier if you just came to me with research and then a test and it's ready to go and I just sign off on it. It's interesting because I don't think this is actually a role specific thing. I think it's a personality specific thing, where it's not just demand generation managers that would prefer everything to be good to go and they sign off on it. Some product owners might like that. Some product managers, owners, whatever, they might literally just be like, show me the data, show me the test, and if I just have to sign up on it, great, then you go do the thing and then tell me how it worked. But some people like to be involved in the process. So here's the actual question, Matt. Knowing that there's probably some product owners who would prefer like a packet of information and then you guys work together on what to do with it. Other product owners who would be like, just do everything and then let me sign off on it. How can a CRO suss out what that mentality is for that product owner? Like, how do we read your mind?
I would start by asking, why am I doing this stuff? Like, what's the goal here? So I love analogies. So I'm thinking of like a restaurant. Like if we're running a restaurant, like an Italian restaurant, I don't want you to bring me like ingredients to make like a cake necessarily. I want you to bring me ingredients to make great spaghetti and lasagna and stuff. So I would understand like, what is the project manager trying to accomplish here? And like, why are we doing things? And what's the value to the customer? Try to get to that next level. Like, what is the business value of all this stuff? Like, why am I doing these experiments? Why am I doing these research initiatives? Like,
can I push you on that? How do I do that? So that's a great question. But if I'm the CRO, let's role play. I'm the CRO. Like, I need to get that information, extract that from you, Matt. How do I do that? Do I just literally ask you?
Yeah, literally ask. Explain it to me. Like, what is the business value? What are we trying to achieve? What are our goals, initiatives? What do I need to do to make the business more valuable, the customer's time to value optimized? And that would define like what you go research. And then package that up, deliver that in a vehicle that is consumable by the product manager. Don't just data dump information, like package it up, sell it to me.
Yeah.
Because you got to sell it. I mean, at the end of the day, like product managers have to sell things, and everybody has to sell ideas. And so package it up in a sellable fashion, sell it to me as the PM, show me the value of it. And then I can take that and then turn it into a feature and talk to the leadership, talk to stakeholders and say, hey, we did the research. We're data driven. This is it. We're going to sell this feature because we have it backed up with data. Otherwise, it could be expended, wasted resources.
Matt's saying I, as the CRO, have to sell it to you guys. What does that sell look like? What are the things that this is a complex question that's probably dependent on the job and the personality, but I'm going to ask both of you guys this. So Matt, you're on deck. What if I like sell it to us? What is something that you like as part of being sold? Perhaps a research initiative, a test. Like, what's the shit that you really like? And then tell me what's the shit that you're like, I don't care about this. This don't matter to me.
Yeah. It depends on personality of both ends of the product manager and the CRO.
Oh, true.
Okay. So
like the CRO. So it's funny. I just had an episode I recorded a couple weeks ago was sometimes CROs are the problem in the way that they approach and talk to people. And a classic example of that could be, Moshe, I come to you and I'm like, here's the test, here's the results, we're doing it, ship it, put it in the ticket. Like, I'm coming to you like I am the product manager and you're just like an engineer. That's a bad CRO. Don't do that.
So it's always two ends way. There is always two people in here, and many times there is more than two people. First of all, there should be an alignment of the strategy and the vision, and to everything that Matt said as well. And the alignment, the question is, who is responsible for the alignment? Is it the CRO responsible for the alignment or the product manager? I believe it's a product manager job to align everyone, not just the CRO, but the designers, the engineers, all the stakeholders, etc., about where is the direction we're going to. Now, with that alignment, the question is, how much space are we allowing to the team members to come up with their ideas and to go a bit research-wise rather than just doing things, right? We don't want to have wild west, although some companies operate like that. We want to have a bit of, empowerment. And that empowerment to the team is to say, this is the problem we're trying to solve. Now, how do we solve it? Could be from many different ideas coming from many different places. So if the CRO is coming with ideas because they are empowered to do this, and that idea jive with the rest of the alignment that was created by the product manager should not have any problem to accept that. But if the product manager does not give them the empowerment and he or she wants to control everything, and then the CRO is a bit everyone on the team are a bit in a pickle there, because for everything they do, they have to get the approval of the product manager or someone else.
That's when they start a mutiny. Right? That's when CRO partners with design and engineering and they start a mutiny and they kick off the product owner, and then
the mutiny.
In most cases, they just do their job and then find another job if they don't like it, right? So,
honestly, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But in many cases, it's not just a product manager issue. It could be someone on the executive team that are telling the product manager what to do. So that empowerment is not just coming from the product manager. They need to be empowered to give empowerment to the team.
If a product manager is frustrated because they're turning into a project manager and taking ideas from everyone else rather than them actually having their own ideas, and they're just moving it through rather than generating their own ideas, that's almost something that if CRO can detect that that's an issue, the CRO and the product manager can align together and be like, oh, we both have a common enemy. We hate this system that sucks for both of us. So let's both start this mutiny together for the I'm gonna just go all pirate all the way.
Yeah.
But that's the opportunity for CRO and product to align together and build a bond and kind of us against the world, right?
There is this opportunity always exists. It's not a new thing. Absolutely. Again, depends on their personality. If you are, a pleaser that want to please management and just get your salary and do whatever they're saying you need to do. Or if you don't take this and just, either have a mutiny in your place or you leave, right? There is a limit to how much individual contributors can change sometimes in organizations. And those limits are testing your own personality and testing your own abilities and your own patience with organizations sometimes.
Yeah, it's almost in a meta way. You're A/B testing your own personality and figuring out how you approach relationships as a true optimizer.
Yeah.
You have to test out, if I'm nice with this person, if I am data-driven with this person, if I'm empathetic, and you're testing. That's like sociopathic behavior, isn't it? Like having That feels like sociopathic. Anyway,
PMs have to do that, though. You have to do that with all your different stakeholders. You're talking to all the business stakeholders. You have to understand what is each person's level of interest and how do you form bonds and how do you get things from people.
So PMs are sociopaths.
You said it, not me. But
are you gonna say it?
No, I'm not gonna say that.
There might be unintended politicians. So and that
you guys are beeped so dancing around it. You could just say it. I'm definitely going to clip it, but you should just say it so I could clip it.
I always try to stay away from politics, and maybe that's one of those things that it's really, really hard.
It's all good. I have the words yes. I'll just splice you saying yes into it, and then we're good.
There you go. Post-editing.
All right, so Matt, I'll follow up with the same question with you. The sell it to us mentality. You as a product manager, if I was a CRO, what's the packet of information? What is the shit I could tell you to make you be like, yep, that's a great test idea. That's a great initiative. That's great research. What can I do to sell to you as Matt better?
Business value in terms of like, this could be revenue generating, one, and then also time to value on the platform itself. So, hey, if we did X, we could generate time to value for the customer, could be exponentially increased. And this is backed by this data and this research I've done. And then additionally, just the go-to-market stuff. Like, hey, if we do this, if we make this change, if we deliver this feature, I think we could do X amount of revenue and sell it this way. So those things would obviously sell me.
I'm going to push back pretty heavily on this. You're asking, what is the revenue projected, or how much money can this thing make? That is so anti-experimentation, because the literal point of experimentation is I have no fucking idea what's going to happen. That's why we test it. So that's where I'm very curious about, like, how do CROs propose potential value when the point of testing is we have no idea what the fuck's going to happen?
I guess I would push back. How do CROs understand time to value? How do you quantify that? Like, what do you use experimenting for the sake of experimenting?
So maybe this is a broader conversation around like the value of experimentation is not win, 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 win. It's insights, learnings. It's do the right things to get you to a point of ultimately having value. So in that same way, if I, like Matt, if your goal is, I'm a big hockey guy, is your goal to make the NHL by any means necessary? Or is your goal to strength training, shot, skill training, get so good at the sport that you're doing so that you make it to the NHL? You know what I mean? Do you want to focus on the process of being so good that you reach the result, or do you just want to reach the result? Because if you just want to reach the result, hacks come into play. Like, that's where diet pills promise the end result without any of the process work, versus going to the gym, weightlifting, doing all that shit. That's the proper process. That's where CRO, when done properly, is the process of learning. And you won't know on a day-to-day basis. Like, you might have gained 10 pounds in water weight when you go to the gym because you just took a bunch of creatine, right? You don't know on that day 2 what the value is. You don't know what the time to value is. If I told you, Matt, going to the gym, day 10, you're going to gain 7 pounds of muscle. I know that's wild. That will never happen. I'm just making this up. But like, you would be skeptical. You'd be like, that makes no sense. How do you expect me to quantify that? Because you don't know. You have to put the work in. You know what I mean?
Could you tell me how much time it would take to like do all this process training to get to the NHL?
No, because you might not even make it to the NHL.
But you're still using things that are related to that. If you would tell me I'm going to make coffee every day as a barista in Starbucks on my way to become an NHL player, I'll be like, you're a dummy. But you're still doing things that are related to that. You will go to the hockey rink. You will learn how to play hockey.
Yes, those are rituals.
And that's a ritual, which is fine, but they are still related to that end goal.
Yes, agreed. And that's what I'm selling. But that's what I'm saying. Matt, I'm not trying to put you under, like, you specifically, but like, you as a product owner are telling me to quantify all of this. And I'm like, I don't know. I will tell you the rituals I'm going to do to hopefully get us towards that end process.
I wouldn't expect a CRO to tell me, hey, you're going to be on the best team in the NHL. You're going to be the best player on the team. Like, I wouldn't expect like, hey, you're going to generate X amount of revenue. Like, I wouldn't expect projections and forecasting. I would just think like, hey, my research identified areas to optimize so that we could drive some idea of revenue, or we could drive value to customers.
Here's a metric. We want it to go up. That's
hockey. Yeah, hockey. Let's keep hockey stick going up.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
But there are product managers, not you guys, or maybe you guys, but I talked to other product managers. They're like, what's the projected uplift for this test? I'm like, the literal point of a test is we have no fucking idea. Projected uplift is a waste of your time and my limited brain capacity to even do some fake math to get you to where this. What's the projection? It's going to be plus or minus 100%, and within that range. That's the projection. I'll give you that. That's my range.
Yeah, that's it. That's the best I got.
But you guys, like, you understand where I'm coming from, where there are other product owners who are like, tell me how much this is going to win. And I'm like,
there is no way to do that.
No,
there is.
I'm not going to do that.
It's an experiment. I mean,
they don't understand the basics of what experiment is all about, and they don't understand the basic that the idea there is to prove or refute an hypothesis.
But I think that's also where sometimes challenges occur with PMs and CROs, because there is this expectation that they've worked with other people who will tell them that. And it's literally our job to not, I don't want to say it's our job to not know, but we are in this job and we have this function because it's the unknown and we're trying to get towards the unknown. So you see how we're kind of twisted into a rock and hard place of folks such as yourself telling us, is this going to win? We only want to do the no bullshit. I've had a very senior leader in the product ownership space tell me, like, I only want to run the test that'll win. And I'm like, I'm out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let me tell you maybe how I would try to rephrase it or try to work with that. I would be more of like in the analogy yeah, of software developers, right? Software developers, there is a velocity. We know that they can work on things. We know they can develop things, but there is a velocity of how they can, what's the speed that they actually can create something happen. And in that speed, we don't know it up front. We have to do a few iterations until and with the same team, and we understand how they work, and et cetera, et cetera. But after a while, we are able to tell, okay, based on all the work that we supposed to give them or they supposed to take on themselves, they are able to have this velocity, and therefore we can expect to have some type of estimates on the change. Now, with experimentation, we can go and we can say, based on our KPIs and where we're trying to get, so we're trying to grow a specific metric from A to B, right? Or to Z.
From A to B? That's interesting.
That sounds familiar.
So we're trying to get it from one point to another point. We don't know if we're able to get it, and we don't know what exact experiment we're going to get it. But what we want to see is a bit of, over time, the number of experiments that you are doing should drive some change. So we don't want the CRO or anyone is doing this discovery and experimentation, just testing and not getting any results at the end. We're wanting to have a bit of velocity to say, over time, if we do 10 tests and we're trying different things, we will be able to nail down something that will work, and eventually we will move our needle somewhere. So if I can trust that over time, the process will create for me that change in my KPIs, I will be able to trust, yes, you need to do your experimentation because that's the way you think, that's the way you work. But over time, do make some change, because if you don't make any changes over time, then why would we do this?
If I'm a CRO and I'm working with a product owner who's trying to tell me, well, what's the projected uplift for this test? Like, I'm not going to do it unless we have projected uplift and you don't like all this blah, blah, blah. To your point, that's a clear-cut example of lack of trust in either the process or the person from the product manager into CRO as a process, CRO as a person.
Or the experimentation in general. What does it even mean to experiment?
That's so interesting. I think that's right. How I would counter that as a CRO, maybe this is some advice for CROs, is like, look, we shouldn't be in the space of projecting if something is going to win or lose. I think we could say there is evidence. That's what a hypothesis is. A hypothesis is an educated guess based on the data to say we believe this thing will win because here's the data. When it wins, brag about it. Throw out all the confetti, fucking pop champagne when test wins, celebrate the wins. When a test loses, have very clear next steps of what you learned in the test and what you're going to do about it. That's shit that will instill trust in the CRO from the product manager if you do these things.
Theoretically, even with you often learn more from losses than you do from wins.
Yes.
Even if you're losing, even if the test is not delivering the results you expected, iterating on it, improving next time is going to make you better to where you'll get incrementally better along the way. You're not delivering everything's not a win every time, but you're getting better and better at what you're doing. And so that builds the trust of like, okay, next time we're going to do it better. Okay, we learned something new. Let's do better next time. And then we win eventually. And I think your win percentage should go up, I think.
Not only that, I think what some folks in the CRO space are trying to push into the ether is like, it's not a loss, it's a save. It's something that perhaps that product owner was going to ship out this thing, and we tested it before, and holy shit, it tanked conversion rate. Thank God we didn't ship it, because now we've saved money that we would have released something that would have cost us money. And I think that's more related to product rather than like a marketing campaign that you ran a test. Like, it's more relevant to product to call things saves, especially when you think about feature releases and stuff. That verbiage makes a lot more sense in product.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, once you get it in the wild, once it's out there, you're like, okay, this didn't work out. But like, if we could have saved it prior to release and prior to it going out.
Well, you might not even know it lost too, right? You might put it in the wild and you might have a bunch of positive results, but it could have been even more positive. It was only slightly positive because you have this anchor.
That's totally, yeah. There's things you just don't know. You'll never know the alternative reality.
This is a long episode, but I'm stoked for it. All right, gentlemen, what is it time for?
Shit you need to know, right?
I got blanks over there.
All right, let's go. Okie doke. So shit you need to know this week comes courtesy of Khalid. Saleh? Oh God. Fuck. Khalid, I'm so sorry. I should have figured out how to pronounce your name properly. I'm sorry. I suck. What I wanted to do is just a very quick kind of celebrate CRO, because I think this is relevant for product owners in general. I know we talked about like, what is CRO? Do you know? A lot of folks don't always know exactly what CRO is. So I wanted to bring like a cool story of CRO so product owners can understand this is the shit that we nerd out about. It's not just button colors. It's not just button text. It's not just button shape. It's so much more at driving business strategy. So here's Khalid's story. A few years ago, we worked in an e-commerce brand known for high-quality outdoor gear. They'd built a solid customer base, but they wanted to understand if a premium version of their best-selling product would work. I'm kind of paraphrasing. Rather than guessing, they tested it. They set up an experiment. It was a Pro Series page showcasing added features like durability, customization options, eco-friendly. The results: the demand was so high, customers were willing to spend a lot of money, more than 20 to 30% for premium features. And the Pro Series sold out in less than a month and created an entire new revenue stream for the brand. No wild risk. A/B tested it, pushed new people onto the product, got a lot more money. And that is a business test. That is not a button test. That is a business test, another B test. Getting from A to B. Hell yeah. So like that's the value of experimentation, right? It's shit like this where you test this out and you validate it. Going back to the previous part of the conversation where I was totally unhinged. Like, we don't know if that shit's gonna work. So if you were coming to me and say, hey, Shiva, how much money is this gonna make? I'd be like, I don't even know if it's gonna fucking win. Anyway, cool story for experimentation, right?
Yeah, that's great. That's a great example. And like, what product managers, that right there resonates with product managers. So, because as I've mentioned throughout this, like, what's the business value of doing all this stuff? Like, as any kind of role, product owner, manager, designer, CRO, like, we're all trying to deliver not just value to the customer, but value to the business where we're working. So that's a prime example of it, experimentation working out.
And I've seen many places that are really skipping value testing and they're going to test right away usability testing. And that's like, really should be done later. First, you should test, is there even value in this? Why should we even spend our money in developing something that is not valuable?
And I think that's relevant to the whole product conversation, because I've also talked to product owners who this is a complex conversation around, like, sometimes the lift to build a thing is very high, and then the lift to test that thing is even higher. So you think about like website redesign testing. That is a very large project. There are SEO implications, there's PPC implications, there's engineering perspective, there's test. There are so many implications for something that's that large that in some cases the cons outweigh the pros of like redesign testing. I think if you're gonna redesign, you should do your best to test it, but sometimes logistically it's just a very hard thing and that can fuck your business up down the line. So sometimes CROs live in a bubble and they're like, test everything. I'm like, that's really great as a mentality, but logistically it can be hard. But on the flip side, test nothing is a terrible way of that. Like, oh, let's just do this thing and see if it works. Well, that's a lot of time, money, energy, meetings spent to get towards theoretically this pro line that if they didn't establish a baseline, they probably would have seen that it worked. But what if it didn't? You know? Anyway, this is great, gentlemen. This is really great to have you on this podcast. I really appreciate you guys both taking the time on a Sunday morning to talk to me about all of this shit. But I think this is such a valuable conversation for CROs to continue to explore and hear more from product owners like yourself, including Moshe, who's a product
manager.
Product people.
Product people, exactly.
Product people. I like that. You guys are PPs.
Yeah, there you go. PPs and MM. PPs and MM. M&Ms.
All right, the M&M folks. Anything you guys want to plug besides your Product for Product podcast?
If anyone will want any help with product management, just let us know, because we are always happy to talk with people, either product managers or CROs. I love talking with startup founders. So, I see in the industry that startups think they don't need product managers and they don't understand product management. And therefore, they're making a lot of mistakes up front. So just talk with us.
Startups thinking they don't need product managers is a wild sentence.
Typically, the founder has that product mentality, so they don't think they've...
Oh, true. Fair enough. All right, well, that's a terrible way to end this. Super depressing way to end this podcast.
Check out the Product for Product podcast.
Yeah.
Check that out. You can find us both on LinkedIn as well. And Moshe and I are always happy to be guests and always happy to chat wherever possible. So please feel free to reach out to us.
Two absolute certified homies, Matt and Moshe, M&M. Thank you guys so much for joining us on this episode.
Thank you so much.
100%.
That was a pleasure.
It was a pleasure.